Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Shared Discovery, the show and podcast dedicated to sharing all the exciting and enjoyable aspects of games and gaming. I'm your host, Victor, and today I'm once again joined by Ron. Ron, how you doing? I can't say how you've been doing since last week, because this is a follow-up episode, but how you doing since...
You know, I'm doing well, hanging in there. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I am super excited. You know, as I do sometimes, I overestimate our ability to condense things into an hour. So this is actually our part 2 episode of why we think it's worth playing Magic the Gathering, which is great. This gives us more time to do what we always want to do, talk about Magic.
Yes, it's a must.
It's a must.
I can't live without talking about Magic.
I was typing up the notes and I'm like, all right, that's page 9. Okay, that's fine. That's page 10. Oh, that's fine. That's page 11. Okay, maybe we gotta split this up. So we did it, we're here. So welcome back. We're gonna do a little brief recap to last episode, because we're gonna be referencing that a lot this episode. So we're gonna do a recap, and that's where we're gonna start, and then we're gonna move into some of the topics that we missed last time.
All right. Sounds good. Where would you like to start?
So, just a brief recap. Magic the Gathering is a tabletop collectible card game created in 1993 by Richard Garfield. Players will play with constructed decks of cards that they collect from trading or buying packs, booster packs, and you play as a planeswalker. And you're trying to defeat each other with spells by getting your opponent's life total down to 0. And that's the goal, is to win the game. And there are some other ways to win the game, but that's the predominant way, is doing enough damage to knock the other player out of the game.
All right.
And the first spot that we started after that history was the color pie, which is something that Richard Garfield decided to put into the game as like ideological representations of what the colors are doing, what they're hoping to achieve, why they're battling.
I'm a big fan of ideology. It's one of my favorite parts of Magic. Is the color wheel, and like doing things in colors that it's not supposed to be doing, or maybe it doesn't do normally.
Exactly. So every color has things that it's good at, things that it's not really good at, and there is a philosophy, a real world philosophy behind that. So of the 5 colors, you have white, blue, black, red, and green in that order. So we're just gonna go through right now, super brief recap of each color, and then we'll keep moving. So,
Lightning round.
boom, boom, boom.
Let's go.
White is the color of peace, law, structure, selflessness, and equality. It's focused on social organization, equality, and peace above all. So
Peace on Earth.
yeah, so that's white, peace. That's its fundamental belief. How about blue?
Blue is all about knowledge, getting big brain status, deceit, caution, deliberation, taking your time, not making any rash movements, and perfection. You want to perfect your art. You want to perfect your play. You want to be unstoppable in every way, because you know every aspect. You know everything. You know what they're gonna do next.
I know I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna take your things because I know everything.
And time, if you will. And next up is
Black. Black is the color of power, self-interest, death, sacrifice, and uninhibitedness.
Ooh, uninhibitedness.
So this is the color that says the only measure of right and wrong is whether or not the approach leads to success. So whatever success is for them, right? Well, and so they're going to use any means necessary, anything, even if it's viewed as taboo. It's going to use any means necessary, and it sees the value in selfishness.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a cheater, but you know,
betrayal, if betrayal helps you, right? And so the core philosophy for Black is self-determination and just release from society's imposed limits.
Cut that link. I'm not worrying about anybody but myself.
Some of their virtues are self-love, self-reliance, willingness to face the ugly side of things head on. There's ugly things in life. Let's tackle them.
Like necromancy.
Necromancy.
Pretty gross.
It's pretty gross, but if it helps you succeed, Black Mage is gonna take advantage of it. How about red?
Red is fire, it is passion, it is freedom, motion, impulse, and destruction. You wanna just break and shatter things that other people care about, but you want to hold the things that you love most close and dear to your heart, and you want to be free to do those things as much and as often as you can. You know, it's very similar to black in that it doesn't really want to hold back, but it's not as amoral. It has things it cares about.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah.
Things it cares about beyond itself. That's
Right.
the difference there.
Exactly, but it wants to burn down those structures that maybe white is trying to
That
build.
inhibits them.
Inhibits them, holds them back. And then last but not least, we have green.
Green is the color of nature, wildlife, connection, spirituality, and tradition. So green loves the world the way it is, right? Nature already got it right.
Yes.
And so it just needs time to be allowed to develop its further perfection.
Why change it? It's great the
Already
way
perfect.
it is. Yeah.
Become more
Classic
perfect.
Coke right here.
So it wants to coexist with the ecosystem, with nature, and it prefers like simplistic ways of living, right? And it believes that individuals are born with a purpose imprinted into their genes.
I like that.
Right?
That sounds nice.
So green believes that every individual is part of the greater picture. The nature, tapestry of life, the universe, destiny. Every person has that purpose, but sometimes we just get caught up too much in the individual to see what that purpose is.
So traditional, but like nature traditional, like hippie, druid, kind of good stuff going
It's
on there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so those are the 5 colors. That's a speed run. Teaser to next week's episode. Speed run of talking about the colors, right? And there's a lot of connections. There's enemy colors, there's ally colors, and these colors will overlap and create new identities. We could keep going on about this, but we think if you're someone who really likes philosophy, there is a way to dive into the game from this perspective and say, I like the way that this plays, I like the characters that use these, so this is great. I get a lot of joy from studying and understanding the philosophy of the game.
Oh yeah.
And so from there, we talked a little bit about archetypes, right? Some people might not care about as much about philosophy. They want to know how the game is played. So from there, there's these 4 archetypes, right? There's aggro. I want to kill the opponent as quickly as possible.
Get it done.
There's mid-range, where it's going to take a little time to get off the ground, but after a while, they have these hard-to-kill threats that have haymakers.
So I need to figure out what is going on, what everyone else is doing, what I'm doing, and then I will just use the answers that I have to suss out the situation and finish it up mid-range.
Yep, takes a little time. And then after that is control, which is even slower. At first, they don't care about winning. At first,
Sit
take my time.
take it easy.
Get rid
What's
of
the
your counterspell.
rush?
Destroy
You know,
that. Get that out of your hand.
I don't need to
Discard
be
that
casting
card.
spells. I can just hold all my mana up and do absolutely nothing but draw a card every turn. What are you doing to me?
The
Nothing.
long-term plan.
The long game, right? The long con.
Yeah, so they're gonna whittle you of resources until they can take over and hit you with a big threat.
Got it.
Maybe like a big dragon or a big creature. Just about like, usually these decks will only have a few of them because they don't need a lot.
Some monster time forgotten you've got hidden away somewhere in a crystal or something.
And then the last one is combo. So combo is like control, where you're slowly stopping your opponents, but you have these specific sequence of cards that will insta-win them. Boom, insta-win, but boom, boom, boom. Going infinite is what this is called, where it'll create this loop of like shooting your opponent, pew, 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 until they're dead in some way.
Just like combos in a fighting game, you got to get those exact inputs, and you want to hold everybody off till you get them, and then boom, it's over.
And I think fighting games is actually a really good comparison here because fighting games has has similarities in
A lot
this
of these
play style.
archetypes,
It has aggro, like out of the gate, I'm jumping at you and punch, punch, punch.
Yep.
Mid-range, I'm stepping back a little bit, and then I'm gonna go in with these combos. Not these like these huge threats, which in those games are called combos. Right.
And there's control where you can throw down like
jab,
little hits with a lot of maybe like throwing down some grease, maybe people slip around, like jumping, flying around, a lot of mobility, a lot of utility, where it's not necessarily doing damage, but it's just frustrating your opponent.
You're gonna see
Tilt them.
the life total go slowly down over the game.
Oh yeah, and if you're in control, your life total isn't going anywhere. It's gonna stay right here.
You're jabbing and you're dodging.
Yes.
And then combo might not be as direct a comparison. Maybe that's like, what comes to mind is like forcing a player into like a wall position where a lot of games don't have this anymore, but older games would have like spots where you could just infinitely break them.
Cheese them.
They can't move. So if a lot of the gameplay would revolve around like avoiding that spot, or pushing that player into
Ring
that
outs
spot.
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, ring outs, that's a very good one. Very good. So
All I have to do is land a kick in a specific way, and you're gone. I don't have.
that's a combo. It's an instant win button.
Yeah. I don't have to
Yeah.
lower your health.
Good comparison. I like that a lot. And so these are for the players that are like gameplay minded. All right. Where do I sit? How do I want to play? And it really supports a lot of different play styles.
Yes.
Because I have some aggro decks where I go fast, and I also have some control decks where I like sit back, I'm gonna watch, I'm gonna draw a bunch of cards. And so that helps for me with diversity of play too. So that's archetypes. And then the last thing we touched on at the end of last episode were the player psychographics, which the player psychographics Wizards of the Coast created as an abstract way to understand why you play the game, why and how.
I'm still surprised that it was Wizards of the Coast that actually put this together, because it feels so like naturalistic, so much like a thing that players would make on their own. But yeah, it's just Timmy likes the big exciting plays, likes to show off, likes to be social and talk about what's going on in the game, and just, love the game for the game. And then you got the Johnny, or this is your builder, your complex designer, your combo players, your
hipster.
Your hipster, magic hipsters are a thing.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take this weird card. I'm gonna play. Nobody plays it for a reason, but I'm gonna find a reason to play it.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to take it and make it valuable. Exactly. And then we have Spike, which is this guy right here.
I like winning.
Yeah, that's it. I like winning. All right.
I want to show you how good I am at the game.
And I think
I like winning.
that's our wrap up of everything we touched on the last stuff.
And what I really liked about
the
wiki page is they had a sentence at the end of each of these descriptions about how they view winning, right? So for the Timmies/Tammies, it's like they don't really care if they win or lose, as long as they were having fun playing their big effects, as long as they got to play their 20/20, as long as they got to play the spell that cost 10 mana, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a little bit there. I just, just let me do a thing. Just let me make some tokens. Let me hit some stuff, and I'm a happy boy.
You're a happy Ron. And then Johnny's, the sentence they had is like, they're happiest when their decks work. So for them, one win out of many games. I won one and lost 9. That's fine, as long as I won with my weird card that you said was bad.
Yeah.
That's fine, if I win on my terms.
Yeah, what's a win-loss ratio? I have no idea what that means. Okay.
And then spikes, it said, if a spike plays several games, loses one, but feels they should have won that one, I had that, then they're gonna be upset, they're gonna be malcontent. So
yeah,
I really like the psychographics because it can really get you into like, why actually am I having fun playing the game?
Why?
What kind of decks am I making? And that can focus you into certain colors, certain archetypes, and that can guide your play to maximize the fun that you're having. So that's an update to where we are now in aesthetic profiles.
Yeah, aesthetic profiles.
And
you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll take this. And aesthetic profiles were added in addition to psychographics to kind of understand, well, how do players find beauty in the game, right? So in addition to the psychographics of why, it's like, what do I find beauty? So the first type here is called the Mel, or the mechanic player. And they're characterized by appreciating the cards for the delicate and interesting interactions, as well as the strong mechanics. So they're really like the cards that come together perfectly. From the name, the art, the mechanics, the power and toughness, they're like super interested in like the structures that made this card exist and function well. So they like, okay, this card has the right color, the rules. Oh, they made this perfect templating so that I could have this new card type. I never thought that would fit on a card. Or like every now and then Magic will update its rules.
Okay.
And every now and then you'll hear like, we don't know how to do that. We don't have the technology to put the terminology to put that in cards. And then years later, like, we found the words we need for it.
All right.
We found the words to do the mechanic we've been wanting to do.
Yeah, it's always in development.
It's always in development, and Mel's love that stuff. And so, opposed to Mel, or in addition to Mel, like again, these aren't alongside. These aren't prescriptive; they're descriptive, and you can embody all characteristics of these.
Right.
A little of each is the Vorthos player, or the flavor player.
Ooh.
Someone who's focused on the creative side of the game.
Oh yeah.
A Vorthos player is characterized by appreciating the cards for the flavor and the creative consistency. Yes. Right? So the name, the illustration, the card concept, the subtype, the flavor text, each of these help paint the picture of the card. Does this card make sense in lore, right? Does the color identity make sense for that character? Or a lot of the Vorthos players would be like, why is this character now this color identity? Right? What happened in the story to move this blue character to a white character or a blue-white character?
And then they build a whole deck around the theme of this character transitioning into another color and their whole adventure and experience, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And for me, I absolutely land on the Vorthos side of the game. I am super interested in the flavor. I will oftentimes, there's the database to look at cards is called Scryfall, and so I'll oftentimes go on there, pick a card, and just look at all of the versions of that have been printed at,
Wow.
and just see like how the printing process, maybe this is the Mel as I'm talking, but as the art saturations will change throughout it. Maybe that's the Mel as I'm thinking about it, 'cause
Right.
that's like a printing process.
Yeah, it's really like nitty gritty,
Yeah.
like materialist.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that might be Mel, but on the Vorthos side, the flavor side, I have like the squirrels here. This picture, this is what squirrels look like across the multiverse, and I love this because it has like specific different versions of the squirrels. Like this one looks like a watermelon. This one has horns in this plane. These ones are gray. And so they're different styles of squirrels. And this one has like glowing eyes on that plane. And the squirrels of this plane fused with magic.
What does this say about an acorn generating device powered by the hopes and dreams of every squirrel in the multiverse?
That makes me want to look into this. This is a card called Chitter Spitter. It spits out acorn. That's super flavorful. If not, I mean, the best card, but like that's got me interested. Like, what is that? The hopes and dreams of squirrels? Are the squirrels like sentient in this verse? It makes me think. Makes me think. Another aspect of that is goblins. Goblin is a really popular creature type in Magic, and they exist across many planes. And what I've done is I just like go and get what are called tokens that some cards will create these, and you'll get these creatures. And goblins, you look at them, you can tell it's a goblin, but they look different across all of the planes, right? They have different nose structures, different colors, different fur, right?
Different head shapes.
Different head shapes. And so I find it really fascinating how across this multiverse, across these dimensions, goblins are the same but different, right? Like, is there a being that created all of these goblins,
Yeah,
right?
it's something to obsess over, that's for sure.
Oh, I have. You see all these?
Yeah.
Went out of my way to try to get all of the goblin tokens
Every single
that
one.
exist, right? Because I just find it fascinating how the colors will be different, the textures, the sizes, but at the core, they're always red, which means they're always focused on freedom, right? At this core, and they're always in tribes. There's these similar personalities and
Always
characteristics.
aggressive.
Always aggressive, but silly, and so silly. They're always so silly.
Yes.
That does it for me too. It's the silliness of them. Got a goblin pirate.
They have a whole culture and lore. They even have a messianic figure that you can read about and look up.
There's a metallic one, like that one got possessed. It's really fascinating to me on the Vorthos
Does he
side.
have sausages in his mouth?
Petals. He's got roses.
Roses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
Red and roses.
I love the art, I love the story, and it's so fun for me to dive into these goblins specifically and say, okay, what is the deal with them?
Right.
And that's a Vorthos player.
So you're big into the lore. You read the books. Yeah.
Yep, I've started reading the books recently, which starting back with Urza, so I found it really fascinating to see the books and see them represented in the card, and then be like, does that color make sense with what he did in the book?
Whoa.
Right?
That's some questions right there.
It's really cool. So that's a Vorthos player. Thanks for letting me show off my goblins, guys. Every time I have a goblin deck. Every time I play, I try to use some different goblin tokens, so you can see the multiverse of goblins I've got.
Oh yeah, every time. It's a good time.
And so this aesthetic profile is like, I find beauty in the flavor. I also have found beauty in the process of the card getting created. Why does a card from 1998 that's been reprinted 10 times, why is the saturation changing so much? And how does the color of that art change the meaning of what the art is? So that's the aesthetic profile, right? And what'll happen is these will overlap with the psychographics, right? So you'll be like, I'm a Spike, but I'll be like, I'm a Vorthos Spike. I want things that are strong and win, but also flavorful.
Mix and match.
Hence goblins.
Yeah.
Goblins are strong, but also really flavorful.
And I'm a big fan of tribes. Goblins are a type of tribe. It's just a type of creature. Like humans are a tribe. Any real character or creature type is a tribe, and I love tribes and just learning about them and stuff like that, and how many different kinds there are. So in that way, I'm a Vorthos, but I'm also kind of interested in the mechanics, more of an overarching way. I don't usually dig down into the nitty-gritty of the mechanics unless I have to, but that's just me. Yeah.
You were so blue last episode. What happened?
Oh, the red's coming out.
The red's coming out, Ron. Come on. Okay, so you're blue-red is what you're saying.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I am through and through blue-red. I like my freedom, but I like my crazy experiments and stuff too.
You want to know a lot of things, so you know how you can best express your freedom.
You got it.
Okay, I like that.
Me too.
I think that's a good question. We didn't ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Our color. I think I'm probably blue, right? I like to know a lot of things, right? Hence the flavor, the reading, the mechanics. I've listened to 300 plus episodes of Head Designer of Magic, Mark Rosewater's podcast. So much. I know so much about the game, and I just want to keep learning, right? Yeah. So blue. I'd say I probably am white as well. White on the community, morality, good. So probably blue-white, I would say, are the two dominant ones. Which is funny because I like to play red a lot.
Right. Yeah. You like your gambling. You like your wild and crazy explosions and goblins. Goblins everywhere. Everywhere.
Which makes me think another facet of this game is being able to express maybe a different identity than what you identify as. So even though I'm more aligned with blue and white, I think, and don't express the red side of life, right, as much, like red, freedom, chaos. I don't express that as a person as much. So I'm thinking like the game allows me to do that.
Yes, for sure. Like that's a big part of why I play Magic is that expression and being able to play in different mindsets than I normally like live my life.
That's a good way to put it. A different mindset.
Yeah, it's like role-playing games. Yes. I want to play someone who's not me. Yep. I want to play someone that's more interesting, or maybe more of a coward, or maybe more stupid, or what have you. But you know, I'm only as stupid as I can be, right? But in my normal life,
it's a very green statement there.
Right. Oh, what color am I? Oh.
See, this is why we love the color pie and these ideas. It's because you can sit here and go back and forth of like, where do I land? What color am I? How do I like to express myself in the game?
And they're not like siloed off columns. It's a gradient. It's totally just like mix and match and play with them and see what fits for you.
Absolutely. So you can. So me, I would say I'm a blue, white. Human.
Oh.
That's my creature type.
1/1.
Can I get 2/2?
1/2.
1/2. Yeah, enoughness.
Maybe a little first strike in there.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And that's funny because Vorthos players get really upset with the flavor of power and toughness a lot.
Yes, I love this.
Because you will have things like a squirrel is a 1/1. But also, so is a trained human soldier.
I love it so much.
And it's just
snake.
That's just the mechanical requirements for the game.
Yep.
There's an Eldrazi god, so think of Cthulhu, right? It's not a god, but like a space monster. It's like a 15/15. 15 squirrels can defeat it.
15 squirrels can
stacked on top of each other.
The killer of worlds.
Yes. So a Vorthos player is like, that doesn't add up. That's absurd. So that adds some absurdity to the game there. It's like, oh man, that doesn't make sense, right?
I'd never thought of that before, but yeah, 15 squirrels can kill a god.
Can kill a god, right? And that's, if you're making a game, you're just gonna have to sacrifice some flavor sometimes, right?
Just roll with it.
So Amel might say, well, that's how it has to be. Look how it came together to make the game function as well as it did. And Vorthos said, but like, squirrels can't kill a space monster, dude. That doesn't make sense.
I thought we discovered that the squirrels might be sentient, so that might add a little. Maybe they're trained in martial skill, warfare. You know how to use a pike and.
I don't care how sentient a squirrel is.
It's not a god killer.
Not a god killer. Okay. Oh man. So should we get back on track and talk about how to actually play the game, how people use the cards to play?
Sure. That's formats, right?
Yeah, that's formats. And formats are the various ways and rule sets of how players use the cards to play against each other.
Okay.
Right. So you're like, okay, I get it. I want to play. I want to play a red deck. You said aggro. I like playing fast. I get it. Well, how can I do that, right? And so each format provides its own rules for deck construction and gameplay, and there's often it's confined to a pool of cards, right? So Magic the Gathering has over 25,000 cards at this point.
Like unique,
mechanically unique cards.
Wow.
Mechanically named 25,000, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So what a lot of formats will do is like, okay, here's all of it. let's shrink it down. You're going to build decks in this from these requirements, and we can build a meta to play in. And so what the formats are divided into two main categories by the Wizards Play Network, which is the sanctioning body for Wizards, the way that Wizards of the Coast creates its formats, and it is tournament and casual.
Okay.
Right? So, and there's a term called sanctioned, right? So sanction refers to formats that the WPN, the Wizards Play Network, is allowed to run at official events, right? So if Wizards is putting on an event, it has to be sanctioned to play, and there can be casual sanction. There's a few casual, and all of the tournament ones are sanctioned because they can be run at an event.
That makes sense. Yeah, why would you have an unsanctioned tournament event?
What you'll see when we get to the casual side, there are like some hobby shops like the formats enough to host informal tournaments, but the tournament formats we're talking about are sanctioned by Wizards to be played at events.
All right.
So you say you're a Spike, you want to win, you want to play, these are the formats you might be looking for.
These are the ones where you get trophies. These are the ones where it's like official, like they'll send you out to Vegas to play other masters
Prize
of the craft.
pools,
Yeah.
expensive cards, right?
Ooh, yeah, you get to design your own if you win sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, that was really cool. They did a series of that for about 10 years, between like 2003, 2013, I believe, where the winners of, I can't remember which tournament series, but the winners of those actually got to work with designers at Wizard to design their own card, and an artist made art in their likeness.
Ooh, that's so cool.
So cool, and that's a sweet reward. And they actually just brought that back this year.
Oh.
There's a new card called Fairy Mastermind.
Yeah.
And it actually says the name of the person who won the tournament in the flavor text and the tournament that they won it in. So that's
incredible.
That's a reward that you could look forward to if you are trying to really compete. You could try to get, maybe not look forward to, but try to achieve. So
Exactly.
tournament formats are broken up into constructed,
Yes.
which allows players to build decks from the entirety of legal pool of cards in the specific format in advance to the tournament, right? So you're gonna know which format you're signing up for. You're gonna know the legal pool of cards before the tournament, so you can build your deck to those restrictions, practice it, and then come and play on that day.
I feel like this is one of the most played formats.
Absolutely. People like to bring in there,
Right.
come with what they want to play with, right?
And like, there's a lot of really good conversation and really good community, I feel like, to be had around Constructed.
Absolutely.
Where everyone's sharing their cool deck ideas. Like, I know one from my memory is Red Deck Wins.
Oh yeah, that is the very classic from the beginning of the game, where you just play red spells, go fast, and try to win, and you try to win. And so that is a style that has existed, right, across the game. So, and like you said, constructed formats give you the prep time to communicate, to practice, to do research, and then limited formats, on the other hand, they require players to open a specific number of products at the event.
Okay, so
And
it could be a handful of boosters, or it could be a whole box, or
Something,
it could be...
exactly, a specific number, which you will know that in advance, and you will know what sets you're getting oftentimes. Sometimes they have random stuff that like chaos drafts, what they're called, right? You get this pack from all of these different sets.
I love it.
Make a deck, right?
Yeah.
And so this puts your like knowledge to the test of like how my construction and my skills of like building a deck within a time frame. You might get like an hour with the cards you got to build a deck, and then you're gonna play a tournament that way.
I'm personally no good at this, but it's one of my favorites.
It's very skill intensive. So you're someone who like really is into the nuts and, not the nuts and bolts, like the nuts and bolts
Helps, but-
yeah, the nuts and bolts helps, like being really knowledgeable about the game and constructing on the fly. You like that pressure? Limited formats are probably for you. So
Right.
one of the most played constructed formats is called Standard. And Standard is played at local hobby shops, often on Friday nights, and these consist of typically the most recently released like standard sets. So they'll
It's pretty standard.
yeah, Magic will release sets of cards in like 300s at a time, and then Standard will say this many sets, this 6 sets are in rotation right now. Build a deck out of those, and let's compete.
Yeah.
Build your 60 card deck. Let's compete.
Another really popular one.
Very popular. And then after that, you have Modern, which Modern is also constructed format, which the rest of these are where you're going in the tournament section are constructed, so I'll stop saying that. But it uses the modern frame cards from 8th edition forward. So all of the cards that come out after that 8th edition forward, when the game updated with their border look, that's what you can play in Modern.
Okay.
And that's to like have the the pool of cards, right?
Right, so that you're just not looking at 25,000.
Let's chop it in half.
Let's make it a little more realistic, a little more.
But there's some people that want to play with all of the cards.
Yes.
And that's, you got 2 formats for that, right?
Yeah.
2 tournament formats. You have Legacy, which allows cards from all sets, and it's known as an eternal format, but it has this curated ban list. Cards are too strong, we're going to ban them. You can't bring them, you can't put them in your deck. As opposed to Vintage, which is also an eternal format that uses all the cards. But this format exists because it wants you to be able to play all of your cards.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a restricted list which says cards that are too strong, you can only have 1 of it in your deck.
One of them.
Because most formats say you can have 4 copies of a card in your deck, but Vintage is like, we know there's broken cards that exist that are too strong, but we know you also want to play with them. So the only things you'll really see banned in Vintage are things that, mechanics that don't work, like there used to be a gambling mechanic called ante. Nobody likes that. It's not supported past the very first set, so that's banned. Or cards that have like physical requirements, so things that require you to throw cards, stuff like that. But otherwise, you can play with them all.
I think there's even a card where you got to rip it up and like throw it like confetti.
Yeah, chaos confetti. Yeah, stuff like that is banned, exactly. But otherwise, your Black Lotuses, your Time Warps, your Power 9 cards, which refers to cards, the 9 most powerful cards that came out in the original Alpha set that were too strong.
And now they're worth so much money.
Yeah, back to our expensive thing. So these formats are going to be a little more expensive. But luckily, some shops are starting to allow players to use proxies.
Oh, thank blessed be.
Right.
I love a good proxy.
Yes. And so the next eternal format is called Pauper. And what this does is it restricts the card pool by saying each card has a rarity, from rare to mythic, common to mythic.
Yeah.
And so what it'll say is like, we only want to use commons in our format. Everything else, get out. So any card that's been printed at common, that's allowed in Pauper.
Yeah.
Even if later it's been like upshifted to like an uncommon card, common meaning you're going to see the most of them. It's usually the weakest. You're going to see the most of them in booster packs. They want to play with those cards and try to make decks as strong as possible.
I feel like the Pauper is a really great way of like, if you're already in Magic and you've already experienced a lot of these formats, it's a great way to just freshen things up and like restrict yourself and make yourself a little more creative and maybe push your knowledge to the limit.
Absolutely. So for Commander, which we'll talk about later, I've actually tried making Commander decks with only Pauper card, with only commons, and it's really interesting to try to see how powerful can I make this. Like, that was printed at common? What were they thinking? Okay, cool, give me. Right? Stuff like that is pushing it to the limit. And the big upside of Pauper, price. It's the most common cards. They're going to be 5 cents. You can build decks pretty cheap.
Oh yeah, there's going to be tens of thousands of these puppies.
So many. So that is a big benefit of this format compared to Vintage. You're not going to win on turn 1 as like Vintage, right? Again, broken.
Yeah, unless you got some
stuff.
crazy commons.
You got really lucky, crazy common, but you're gonna still have some strong games, and it's gonna be different. and fresh, like you said.
Yes.
And so the last one that we have here is called, it's the only sanctioned multiplayer format, and it's called Two-Headed Giant.
Oh yeah, this one's fun.
Which this is cool. This has flavor in it too, right?
Oh yeah.
And so what you do is you're on a team with one other player and you're competing against someone else. So two pairs are against each other and you share a life total and you take all of your phases and your actions at the same time.
So teamwork.
Teamwork. And so that's the tournament formats. These are the ones where you're going to grind, you're going to improve, there might be rewards on the line, there might be stakes, stuff like that, prize pools. But if you're just like, I just want to play the game with my friends, these are casual formats. Tell us about casual formats, Rob.
Oh, casual formats. These are probably my favorite because I'm a casual guy.
Right. Yep.
You know, I take it easy. I don't mind the competition personally, but it gets stressful after a while, and I got enough stress in my life personally. So these are the formats that are designed to accommodate, you know, people like me, larger numbers of players, you know, people who aren't as committed to just keeping up with all of these formats. And a lot of the things with the more tournament-focused formats is that they update a lot, and they are constantly shifting what cards you can and cannot use. So you always have to be.
That's a really
on
good
the upkeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as a lot of, especially in these eternal formats or like modern, where new cards are getting added all the time, you got to do your research to succeed and know what the best decks are. Oh, that deck just got banned out because its important cards are gone. A lot of research. Casual. We've made decks. I have decks that we made 5 years ago that I've never updated, but we still play them.
Just keep rolling with it. Why change it? And there's not a lot of multiplayer. There's one multiplayer format that's sanctioned. So to allow more than 2 players to work together as a team or a giant free-for-all, these formats have cropped up to accommodate that. So they're not sanctioned, but they don't need to be. We can still have fun,
Absolutely.
right? Just take it easy. It's not a big deal. Let's have 12 people playing Magic together. And not all
stressful.
Yeah, not all formats are officially sanctioned. You know, we've mentioned that before. And however many of these variants are popular in tournament play, you know, then they get picked up. Like there's a couple we'll talk about that have tournaments and things associated with them, but they're not as widely adopted by Wizards or thought about, or Wizards doesn't update a ban list, things like that.
It's like community driven.
Yes,
Yep.
more community driven, more community based. And like I said, they don't all have support of Wizards. So first up is casual constructed. This is your peasant, which is commons and stuff like that, right?
And like a certain amount of uncommons.
Right.
So just each of these has like a specific rule set. If you think it's interesting, sticks out to you, there's a community around it that wants to tell you about it.
Frontier. I've never heard of this one.
I haven't heard this one either. I read about it, but I'm blanking.
You're blanking?
Blanking right.
All right, we'll carry on then. I didn't say that. Singleton. This is, you can only have one card of that variant, of that type of card in your deck. So then your whole deck is made of unique individual cards.
With the exception of lands. You can have any copy, any number of copies of basic lands, because that's what allows you to play the game.
Right.
But otherwise, throw that 4 of rule out. We're having 1 copy each.
Get it out of here. Tribal.
Tribal Wars.
This is, you pick a tribe and you just smash them against each other.
Exactly. I want to play elves. You want to play merfolk.
Yes, please.
Let's play some zombies, angels. Pick a tribe that speaks to you. Build a deck about it.
Gladiator. Is this a bunch of people enter the arena and only one left standing? Is free for all probably?
It sounds like it to me. I should have refreshed on these, but I do know what pre-modern is.
Oh, lay it on me. Yeah.
Pre-modern is the time period from about cards from 1995 to 2003, and that's right before Magic got its newest border. So the border that it had from the beginning of the game to 2003, it's taking that period of time and say, let's make some decks out of that.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of favorite cards from that region in there.
Oh yeah.
It's about where I started too, is early 2000s. But next up, Now that we're done with casual constructed, you know, and all them, next up is casual limited. So this is just like limited in tournament formats. It's taking all the 25,000 cards and just narrowing it down to really specific sets. So that can be cube draft, which is somebody builds this limited number of cards, just enough for everybody to essentially get like booster packs, booster packs. They're fake, they're made up, right?
It's like
15 cards.
Resealable packs.
Resealable
like
packs.
15.
Yep.
And cubes are really cool because they'll say, I like this specific point in Magic history.
Yes.
I like this set. I'm going to curate an environment around it. 300 cards make these packs. And we're going to draft that and try to simulate what it was like playing that.
Yeah, like I have a cube that I've been dying to play right now that is all of the comedy, all of the silver bordered, all of the funny cards. They had a number of funny sets that are all silver bordered to let you know that these aren't legitimate, like for tournament play.
Unglued, unhinged, unstable, and unsanctioned.
Unsanctioned.
Yeah, unsets.
Yeah, unsets. And that's fits right into this perfectly, is that it's just got enough, 300 cards, enough for like 6 people to draft out of and build your own decks and have a good time.
I can't believe we didn't mention unsets because they're so goofy. There's some players that don't even play like serious Magic because they just show up for the goofy sets. And they're like, and these goofy sets will be things like, you have to touch your hands together at all times or a bad thing happens.
Handcuffs, yeah, or you have to balance this card on your head, and if it falls off, something bad happens. Or
if you don't scream, this card dies.
Red hot.
Red hot. Cheat this card into play, right?
Yeah, it's legal to cheat this card.
If you're more on the zany side of games, you play it for just like the humor of it. Unsets will be there for you, and of those are not sanctioned. Completely casuals. We've had a lot of great times with unsets.
And then there's backdraft, which is where you build the worst deck you can possibly make for someone else to play, and then you play a tournament with these horrible, horrible decks and see who can rack up the most wins, and also if their deck loses.
Yes.
Scores some points too. If the deck they made loses, they win.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen this, so I'm like, yes,
so cool.
please. So to make this function,
Yes, please.
you will give them the cards that you require to be in the deck, like the lands and all, not the land, everything except the land. So then the player can make their own land base, which is their resource base to play, so that the deck actually works. But you're gonna give them all these bad cards that have no synergy, no interaction. It's hilarious. So if you somehow win with the bad deck that was given to you, you get a point. And if they lose with the deck you gave them, you get a point. It's so good. It's hilarious.
What about this next one? Reject rare draft. Is that?
We don't play with rares. Get them out of here.
Get them out of here. It's just draft, but you just
no rares.
pitch the rares.
Pitch
okay.
the rares.
And then type 4?
No, I forgot.
All right, too easy, man. Then moving on to casual multiplayer. This is your free-for-all. Too easy. You get a number of folks around and you battle it out. Assassin, which is you get a target.
Yes.
And you have to knock them out.
Secretly assign roles and secretly assign targets, and if you can knock them out, you get the win.
It's like a social deduction game on top of Magic.
Yeah, so you can win by defeating everyone, but you don't win unless you meet your objective too. Kill your target.
So good. And then Emperor, which is...
The way we've played it is a 3v3, where there's the Emperor in the middle.
Yeah, is it
two
specifically Commander, though?
I don't think it's specific.
You can just play with any kind of deck,
if you have like any kinds of decks, I think as long as you're playing the 3v3 format of Emperor in the middle, 2 knights on the side, across from you, and the goal of the game is to be the first team to defeat the other person's Emperor.
Right, and knights can only attack knights until you've defeated the knight across from you. And emperors have full carte blanche. They can attack anybody. Doesn't matter who.
So as a knight, you're trying to defeat the knight in front of you as quick as possible, so then you can start helping your emperor. As an emperor, you're trying to defeat the emperor, but also keep your knights alive.
Yes.
Really, really cool format.
It's solid. We play it all the time.
Oh yeah.
And then next up is probably one of the most popular formats.
It might be
in
the
my
most
mind.
popular at this point.
Is Commander. Ooh boy, do I love me some Commander.
Oh, yes.
It's just flavor, it's just goodness, it's just singleton. Like it's so many things mixed together. But essentially, it's derived from a fan-created game called Elder Dragon Highlander, which is like all of those big cards that don't work in any of these tournament formats, all of these cool cards that are just laying around. What if you threw them in a deck and all unique one singleton format, unique cards through the whole thing. There's 99 of them. And then you have one card that sits aside, and it's always kind of technically in your hand. In
You
the
always
command
have
zone.
access to it.
Right. You always have access to it. It sits to the side, and you can play it as long as you have the mana to play it. It increases costs every time it's removed, but it's sort of the identity of the deck. It gives you indication as to what you are trying to do or emphasize with your deck.
Yeah, it's really, so the identity of the deck's a good way to put it for multiple purposes, because it's a legendary creature that you put in the command zone, what it's called, and it will have the casting cost. So say it costs 2 red and a white. You can now only have red and white cards in your deck.
Yeah,
So that limits the pool of cards and limits the types of abilities that you can use. But also, since you always have access to that card, you can build your deck to take advantage of what it does. So flavorfully, you can only use the colors, and mechanically, you can build around a style that you want to emphasize.
it's so cool, and it's just so chef's kiss.
It's super expressive, super flexible, and I think it's very supportive of like the Vorthos players that love the flavor. I am going to build a deck with only goats, and I've done it. It was bad, but all goats.
You did it?
Goat tribal.
Goat tribal.
Right? Or I'm going to build with this creature, this legendary creature, Urza. All right, I can only put cards that make sense for Urza to use, right? And I've listened to podcasts like, I don't use that card because the character, that makes no sense to the character's lore. But then there's also people on the other side, on the spiky side of the game, where they're like, and might be called CEDH, right? Where they want to get this 100, that's the thing we forgot, it's 100 cards, which is bigger than most other formats, which is 60 cards. And so, but they want to try to make the decks as fast as possible, and win as quick as possible.
Well, it's 99 in the deck.
Yeah,
and
99,
Commander.
and then 100. Yeah, cool. I always say that, just 100 by habit. But it's super flexible, and it's kept us playing for what, 5, 6 years, just specifically this format at this point.
A big reason I am a fan of it is it's more like a board game in a lot of regards, where you're more standard and you're limited and constructed and stuff like that. It's one-on-one. It's like a knife fight. This is like a little slower pace. It can be. CEDH is like...
They can go quick, yeah.
Crazy. They have a lot of low-costed stuff, and they just go fast right out the gates, and it's more competitive. But in Commander, it's slower pace. It reminds me more of a board game. It's multiplayer, so we usually play with 4 people. And then there's also this element laid over top that's table talk.
Yes.
That is, I don't want to just say manipulation, but it's alliance
table
politics.
Talk. We did a whole episode on it,
We did a whole episode on it.
Communicating and talking to the other players to get advantage from them.
Exactly.
It's awesome. It's a facet that's kept us in the game. And what's awesome is like new legendary creatures are always coming out. So you're always like, oh, I should build that. I should build that deck. I should build that deck.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, give me that, right? And so it is always expanding and always it rewards creativity.
It feeds like every aspect of Magic the Gathering, but in a way that appeals to me personally, where there's always new legendaries coming out to build decks around, but it's also like the ones I have will still work. I can update those and work within those and the constraints
As
there.
new cards come out, maybe your deck gets better,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe a card comes out that's like, this card that was in my deck doesn't flavorfully make sense, but this does now. Get out of here.
Yep. So it appeals to the builders and the continuous building, but also you don't really have to do that. You can just hang with what you have. There's
Exactly.
tons of new products coming out from Magic the Gathering, which we're not endorsing, but I'm just saying it's there. You can buy commander decks straight from Magic, even if it's not sanctioned or a tournament format in any way.
And honestly, we could do a whole commander episode. So as we're hitting the top of the hour, we'll wrap it up. But what I will say is, thinking back to bottom of the hour, you're right. Yeah, we're at the bottom now. We're not starting over.
No.
I think I did that last week too.
Oh, that's fine.
It's fine.
That's last week.
It's last week. But at the bottom of the hour here, as we're wrapping up, I will say, thinking about our psychographics. The Timmies love commander. You can play your big things. I was going to say Jimmys. The Johnnies really love commander because you can make intricate, weird things work because you always have access to this card. And the Spikes love it because you can tinker and squeeze, all of the power out of it. So it is great for that.
Oh yeah, and combo players, there's always a machine to make and to crank and to build and combos to look for combo players, and it's all there. It's got it all.
If you want us to do the commander episode, let us know.
Yes, please. I'm dying to do the commander episode.
But we do have one format left, and that's inspired by commander, actually.
Oh.
And I like to put this one on here because I think if it might fit for players who are coming from 60 card formats, right? It's called Oathbreaker, and it's a fan-created commander variation where you have 58 card decks and then 2 cards that you always have access to. You have a Planeswalker and their signature spell. So coming from a 60 card format, it might be a nice transition to, like, I like the smaller deck. I like being able to see the things happen quicker because you have a smaller deck, but also in the free-for-all form strategy.
And commander can take a long time to play one game. We've had 4-hour game, 3-hour games.
Yeah, we've had those, and it's like average, I'd say, an hour to 2. Being realistic.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it just drags on. So Oathbreaker, I've heard some people really like that for the speed of the game as well.
Right.
So as we wrap up here, I think it's really important to just touch on that. Commander is great for community. There are over 40 million players worldwide, and it's just been like such a good bridge to make
Magic is good for community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commander. I'm stuck on Commander.
Got Commander on the brain.
But yeah, okay, so there aren't 40 million Commander players, but there are 40 million Magic the Gathering players.
You got it. Yeah.
And it's been great for making connections. I don't know how many times I've heard someone like reference just something about Magic, and I'm like, hold up. You know?
You play Magic?
You play Magic?
Bro, you play Magic.
Bro, and I've made friends that I'm still friends with today just because I was buying Magic product and they saw me. You want to play? Yeah, absolutely. So just think about that. Like, it's really good for bridging the gap and making new friends. And so to summarize the episode here, bottom of the hour, got it right.
Bottom of the hour.
We think it's really worth episodes. Summarize these episodes is that it's worth playing Magic for ultimately self-expression. If you're a player that likes mastering a game, the nuts and bolts, and tinkering with it, getting the most out of it, it's there for you. If you like the aesthetics, the flavor, like injecting yourself into the philosophy of the game, it's there for you. If you're a creative person that wants to like just make new things work, niche things.
It's got it.
It's got community. So I hope after these 2 episodes, you've learned something about Magic. I hope they found some reason to want to try it.
Yes, and join the 40 million.
Join the 40 million. Let's
get it to a trillion.
50. Oh, a trillion.
Get it to 7
Let's
trillion.
Get it to 7 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Everyone's
go.
playing Magic.
So as we wrap up, if you have any specific questions about Magic, if there's any Magic topics you want us to address, please send us some questions at shareddiscoveryshow@gmail.com. Ron, we forgot to write down the Twitter. We made it. We forgot to write it down.
We forgot to write it down.
Okay.
Next time.
Next time. It'll be in the show notes.
We'll get you
Look
next
for our
time.
Twitter there. And thanks immensely to BCTV for allowing us to continue putting this production on. You guys rock. So as we sign off, just want to thank you for joining us on episode 11 of Shared Discovery. As we go, please make sure to be kind, have fun, and, just play some games. Try some magic. So Ron, sign us off.
Riches must be divided, but real wealth can be shared. Bye now.
I love it. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.